Well, hello there.
Hello.
How are you?
Fantastic.
This is episode 2 of the Real Slim Sherri Show, which in the pilot episode, we debated rebranding and calling this the Real Slim Sherri Shit Show. And we haven't done that. I really am curious what the audience thinks. And maybe they will answer it after episode 2, because this one will probably be a lot like episode 1, which
I'm
is
willing to bet yes.
Yeah, which is we don't know where this is gonna go. But anyway, welcome to episode 2, and really, is this technically episode
I think
1?
it's yeah, because it's always like a pilot and then episode 1.
But who makes those rules?
I don't know. People that are above our pay grade.
But I don't get paid to do this?
Oh, well, I just mean in the industry, if you will.
Oh, well, I mean, we're new to this industry, so we don't
Right.
know you know what? We don't know any of the rules. We don't even follow them because we don't know what they are, and we're just gonna make them up as we go. What do you
Okay.
think?
It's a
And then
plan.
if we break all the rules, we can just plead innocent and be like, "We didn't know."
We didn't know.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Well, we had a very active weekend. Your birthday was Friday. My birthday was Sunday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. The after party.
No, we're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about that.
Why don't you let everybody know what we did for our birthday?
Well, let's back up. So just to give you guys an idea, there's 7 years between us, okay? It was fall break for our kids, and so we were out of town, and Krista got me an incredible gift for the day of my birthday. We had somebody come in and cook a nice meal for us, which was Chef Jojo, right?
Chef Jojo, yeah.
Chef Jojo
You can
down.
find her at, Chef Jojo 30A if you Google that.
Yeah, that was amazing. Like, and before that, before the dinner, we did a little craft thing, me and you and the kids, right? Which I don't know what you call it. What was it?
I think it's technically like a crushed glass, like, art is
Okay.
what it
It
is.
was very cool, and they
It
turned
was.
out amazing. So we each did one, and they give you like a framed piece of art that's a blank canvas, except it has like an outline of whatever artwork you're creating. But then they give you all these little bags of all these different colors of broken glass, and then you fill it in and you decorate it, and then when you're all done, you pour resin in there, and it's
Sets it, yeah.
sets it. Yeah, it was very
It's
cool.
very cool, yeah.
They all turned out incredibly awesome. My kids who are 11 and 14 were doing them with us, and, it was a fun little thing for us to do together. And then while we were doing that, then we had somebody making, a meal for us, which was the first time I've ever had a chef
Yeah, same.
come to me
Mhm.
and make me dinner, and the food was amazing. Her and her assistant, Ariel, we're gonna never forget because I was like, "Oh, mermaid." They were awesome, and, the food was incredible, so that was great. That was a lovely birthday gift where I didn't have to cook dinner on my birthday,
Well, and
so
we didn't
thank
have to
you.
go. I mean, normally we go out,
Yeah, but
but
there
we
are
didn't have to
times
go out.
there have been many years where I've cooked dinner on my birthday, but yeah, that was nice. It sit down, somebody served us, 4 courses, I think. We started with a wonderful salad, and then it was soup, which was so good. It was a butternut squash soup, and then the main course, and then dessert, the apple crisp
Mhm.
at the end. It was wonderful. Anyway, that was what we did on my birthday, and then Krista's birthday was yesterday, so in between the 2, so my birthday is Friday, and then she informs me Friday that we have to leave the house, leave where we're at on vacation to come home the following morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. She's like, "We have to leave at 5 AM." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, we have to leave. We have to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "I can't tell you." And so I was, I'm like, "Wait a minute. You're not gonna tell me why I have to be up." I said, "Do I have to be like ready to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, or can I just roll out of bed and basically leave?" And she's like, "Yeah, you can just roll out of bed." Well, you can't just roll out of bed when you're, on vacation. You have to pack up the car and pack up all the shit and do all the stuff you have to do at the place you're staying, which is take the trash out and empty the refrigerator. And I left my electric toothbrush there. Damn it. Anyway, because that's what happens at 5 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't caffeinated enough. So then we get on the road and we drive home, and I have no idea what we're doing until we get home, and Krista pulled off one of the most incredible gifts I think I have ever I'm pretty sure ever gotten in my life.
I'm not
So,
pretty sure. I
I
mean,
just
I've been
said,
with you for 20 years, so it definitely was the biggest surprise I've ever pulled on you.
no, it wasn't the surprise. I mean, yes,
Just the
yes,
yeah,
just the gift itself was like probably, if not the best gift I've ever gotten. So there's an artist, kind of like an indie artist, blues singer that I've been following for about 10 years, I guess. Her name's Christy Lee. And Krista somehow managed to pull off this incredible opportunity for her to come to my home and put a private concert on for us in the backyard Saturday night. And it was amazing.
it
First of
was
all,
incredible.
not only is she an incredible artist and her music, if you like the blues, which I do, I've always loved the blues. I love a good soulful, gritty.
Honestly, even if you don't love the blues, she is such an amazing storyteller,
That's what
and
I was
that's
just about
what
to say,
yeah.
storytelling, which is what
Mhm.
the blues
Yeah.
music really is, kind of a storytelling, kind of like country. Country music is a lot of storytelling, but and I'm not a country fan, but I am a blues fan. And s- if you if you like the blues, or you like a good storyteller in music, she's got this really soulful,
Man, she's got
gritty,
some pipes on her,
yeah,
man. It's
voice. She
crazy.
plays, her acoustic
Amazing
guitar
guitar,
with her
yeah.
percussionist, and they're just the 2 of them. It's just 2 of them, and the music is so good. And so, anyway, she came to the house, and, we invited some friends over, so it was a very small little private concert in the backyard, and we had food, and we had some drinks, and everybody was relaxed, and, we'll get to the drink part for Krista. Christy, her and her percussionist were just so comfortable, right? It was like having an old friend over is really
Was
what it was like.
it was yeah, it was weird. It was very much yeah, even for us, just like an old friend came over and
Yeah.
played and hung out with us,
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I had imagined for her, that has to be, you're going in. I even said, I can't believe you're just going into strangers' homes. Like, that's crazy that you're just showing up at a stranger's home that you've never met before, and you don't know what you're getting into. And she did tell us a little bit of some wild stories that encounters she said.
she said that they took 5 years off from doing that from based on an incident that occurred in the woods of
The
Tennessee or
woods of
something.
Tennessee,
And I was like,
deliverance.
"What?" Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so the fact that so she played a show that night before in Raleigh, North Carolina,
Mhm.
drove from Raleigh here to Atlanta, played for us for a couple of hours. She was here for more than a few hours. I think they got here around what, 6:30?
I
Was
got
it?
her 6,
6. And they didn't leave here till a little after 10. So,
almost 11.
yeah, almost love it. And they had to drive
So
from
they hung
there
out yeah.
to Mobile, Alabama. So they were still getting in the car and leaving, which, I think that Christy might have been like, do we have to do this? Like,
Oh,
she,
yeah, I think she wanted to stay
I
and
think she
hang,
did.
you know?
And that was the thing, is that she said hanging out with, she felt like she was just hanging out with an old friend too. So it was really cool. Great concert, small, intimate in my backyard. Just like I said, some of me and Krista and some of our closest friends. I think we're going to be friends with Christy and Missy after this, and Roy. And 53 will go down in the books for me for sure. I didn't
Well,
think that at this age birthdays could get better. I mean, every year is like for me at this age is like, shit. I'm getting another year older is what it feels like. I mean, 50 was pretty amazing, even though I was scared to death of turning 50. When I did it, it was like a great birthday. And then, so for 53 to have kind of topped all of the birthdays I've had before is just, that's crazy. So thank you.
it was awesome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
It was very fun.
So how did you feel about it? Because it was also, so the cool thing is Krista got this awesome gift for me, but her birthday's on Sunday, was 2 days after mine. And so we kind of got to, that night was like for both of us, like, because Krista loves her music too.
I do love her
And,
music.
it was just to be able to hang out with our friends. And Krista had one drink. Now, a lot of our friends had lots of drinks.
Listen, it was all fun and games until the moonshine came
Right.
out.
Right. So the snow globe
Y'all,
came out.
y'all. So just a little backstory. We have a very good friend of ours who on socials, it's Bennett Peach, and her husband is a moonshiner. He's actually going to be on the show Moonshiners, I think in November.
I think so, yeah.
And then they brought us some of his moonshine when they played in Atlanta, when Gen X Takeover was in Atlanta last year. And one of them was a black cherry moonshine. And so people were passing around the moonshine because we don't even really drink that much. So I was pulling out all the liquor. I was like, here, drink all of it. I don't really drink that much anymore. My saying is I used to be a rock star. I no longer am. And so I didn't even have any of the moonshine. Technically, I ate one of the cherries. Just one.
One cherry. There were a
And
lot
I
of cherries
had-
being passed around, but Krista only had one.
That sounds weird. But anyway,
Get your head out of the gutter.
you get your head out of the gutter. Anyway,
You always say that to me. You get your head out of the gutter.
I had one mixed drink. And let me tell you, we were joking that my birthday is the after party because it's 2 days after Sherri's. And
It's not a joke.
it was the after party yesterday because I was struggling.
Well, that's not why we call it the after party.
No, but it very
So
much lived up
we
to its
call
name.
it the after party because, to be honest, I mean, Krista and I, we've been together 20 years. And Krista's birthday obviously has always came 2 days after mine.
That doesn't change.
That never changes. And so I didn't know until just a few years ago that she really doesn't like her birthday 2 days after mine.
Well, no. That's okay. So people will be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You guys have birthdays right by
She's
each
like,
other.
"No, it's
Do you
not."
like it? And I'm like, it's
No,
fine.
she doesn't. You know why? Because she feels like the after party. She feels like I'm the party. Everything gets poured into my birthday, and then she's the after party. And so this year, I feel like that concert and that moment, even though we did drive home early in the morning and came home, hadn't been home in a week, have to get everything together. Krista's got food ordered and we have to get everything set up, all the stuff for people to come over, get the backyard set up and get it ready to have a little mini concert in your backyard. There was a lot to pull off. Plus we have 2 teenage kids. They had to have their friends over. So we had to deal with that. And it was a lot to pull off in a 12-hour period of time, essentially. But we did it. I thought it was awesome. And I felt like Krista was celebrated in that time too, because our friends were there.
Totally.
Christy Lee, every time she would say happy birthday to Krista would break eye contact with her apparently. And Christy called her out on it and said, hey, every time I say that, you turn your head. Like you look at
No, I
look at me.
at Sherri. I look at Sherri because it was her.
Look
It
at
was
me.
for her.
It's your birthday too.
Okay.
And so it was awesome.
It
But
was very great. Very fun.
it does draw into question yesterday after your birthday, because Krista was hungover, which we can talk about this phase of life, what it's like consuming alcohol. It's a questionable decision, not necessarily a good one. I was feeling fine yesterday, by the way, and I'd had plenty of my own adult beverages, but I guess I'm still a rock star. No, it just depends on what kind of liquor I'm drinking. And I know myself, so I stick to what I know. And everybody kept trying to offer me one of those damn cherries. And I was like, no.
Well, you don't like cherries anyway. So.
No, I don't, which has made it even easier to be like, no, not doing it. If it wasn't a cherry, I probably would have done it. Had it been like a strawberry or blueberry or something like that, I would have done it. But for Krista, she was hungover yesterday morning. And then,
ridiculous.
So yeah, it did feel like the after party, or maybe a little bit of regret after the party yesterday. But
I think it was a culmination of everything, getting up at 5 a.m. the day before and doing everything that we had to do. I drive. So I think I was just also exhausted. So.
Oh yeah, we all were tired.
Yeah.
And then I decided last night, because, we have teenage kids, and I very specifically asked them yesterday morning to make Krista a card, like each of them. They do this every year. It's not like they don't know to do it. I asked them very early in the morning, I said, don't forget to make mommy a card. And later yesterday, closer to the evening, actually, dinner time, Krista informed me that they had not given her anything. They almost, it was like not even acknowledging. And I was trying to play devil's advocate, and I was like, well, there's been a lot going on over the last 24 or 48 hours, actually. And they've had their friends here, and there's been a lot of people here, and I'm trying to make excuses for them. But at the same time, I was texting them basically like, what the fuck? Like, I asked you very specifically. She felt that's the after party right there. That's the real after party of like feeling forgotten. And so I decided last night that next year, we're going to celebrate her birthday first. We're just going to flip flop. We could do that forever going forward, because the truth is, once you hit 50, Krista's still in her 40s. Once you hit 50, birthdays just are not that big of a deal anymore. And you made it a really big deal, and I appreciate it. It was an incredible I did not think 53 could be this good. But 54 is probably gonna be like, we don't even have to do it. I don't even have to I could just not turn
Just
54.
pretend like it never
Just
happened.
pretend like it's just didn't happen. If you can't prove it happened, it didn't. So we just won't talk about it. We won't do anything, and then it'll be like it didn't happen. We can just pour it all into you. We can make it that whole time period all about you, and we can just skip
It's
me.
okay.
I'm
It's
okay
okay.
with it.
It's okay. It's
Are
all
you
good.
sure? Come next year, we're having this conversation because
Okay.
it's still too fresh. You're still 246, and I'm still 253. Too close to those numbers.
Oh,
You know
okay.
what I mean?
Got it.
Before by next year, it'll be like, oh, I'm a lot closer to because I did say something the other night, or was it last night? No, I think it was during the concert where I was like, you're closer to 50 than you are to 40.
Listen,
How do you feel about
we
that?
already have had this discussion though, where because you are 7 years older, I already feel like I'm living at 53.
Right. So that's why I'm
So the fact
asking,
that
what's
I'm
it feel?
only 46, I'm fine with it. I don't it's fine.
So do
I'm
you
good with it.
really feel like you're 53?
I no, but I don't feel like I'm 46 either. So
How old do
my
you feel?
brain's not, definitely
No, my brain.
46. Well, my brain might be 80, but my
I think your brain is
maturity.
more like a 9-year-old sometimes, where it's just all
Okay.
like a hyper 9-year-old.
That's what my that's what my brain feels like, bouncing around all over the place
That's
half
what I
the time,
mean.
but yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know, I still feel like I'm, like, 35, so,
I mean, most days I feel 35.
yeah.
Maybe some days I feel 25. And then other days I feel 90. It just depends on the day of the week, to be honest, and how much rest I've had, how much menopause is kicking my ass,
How much protein you've
how
had.
much protein I've had, how much creatine I've eaten, which is new, how much whatever.
Protein, how much
How
collagen,
much
how much
collagen, how much iodine, iron,
eh,
whatever the fuck I'm supposed to be eating, because now that's all the things that are, you have to eat more protein and you have to eat
eating
creatine.
protein is a full-time job
Yeah,
in your 40s.
I've always heard my whole adult life about eating because I'm a vegetarian. Okay, so people ask me constantly, "How do you get all your protein?" There's protein in more than just meat. But anyway, it's always been a question. People always like, "You need to eat more protein," and I'm very healthy, I'm fine. But lately, especially with menopause and all these menopausal things coming up in my world, it's all eat more protein. You have to eat even more than what I was told to eat earlier in life. And then it's, oh, and you need creatine and you need iron and you need collagen and you need niacinamide and all this shit where I'm like, what the I eating is a full-time job, just trying to figure out that if I'm getting the right nutrition into my body. And so, yes, that's all true story. Menopause does that to you. Midlife does that to you, where you just suddenly one day have to worry about how much protein you eat.
It's a lot.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
We don't build muscle. I know that's part of the problem. We don't build muscle the same way we did when we were younger. These are the things that remind you that you are 53 or 46 is how much protein you're eating. And that I can't work out the same way I used to, and that I need to do a certain kinds of working out versus what I used to do. Well, it's more resistance training now, and but then there's a risk of me getting hurt, and there's all this crazy shit that I have to worry about. Where it's like, I know there was a time in my life I never really thought twice about walking down the stairs, and now it's like a real fear of
You no, no, no. You have been like that for a while.
what the walking, like, being afraid of
Uh-huh.
no, I'm
Yes.
just saying that what really happened when I turned 50. It was not something when I was younger, I've fallen down the stairs plenty of times. It wasn't something I really thought twice about when I started to take the first step down the stairs. Now, I actually pause at the top of the stairs to make sure that I am paying attention to what I'm doing so I don't fall down the stairs because I could break something. It's a real it's a real problem.
Well, definitely don't walk down the stairs with socks on. No longer can just run and jump off of anything.
There was a time in my life when I was fully confident that I could jump off of something and my knees would be there to catch me. And now, now, no, they're like, no, bitch, we don't jump. We're not jumping. And if you do, I'm not going to catch you. You're going to
No.
fall on your ass.
Please don't. Please don't.
Yeah.
It's funny because our 11-year-old is pretty much a 50-year-old when it comes to those kinds of things because she's afraid of
Everything.
heights, afraid of falling, afraid of what I don't even know. So she is actually more of a what's the word? Words are hard. She's more of our like, don't do that. You might hurt yourself. Like,
Oh, she's an old lady. She's like your
she's an old
grandmother
lady.
telling you
Yeah.
not to do something, or your mom,
Right.
she
Don't do that. You
mothers.
might hurt your. Yeah, she does mother. She definitely mothers. Speaking of words are hard, I have a funny story from this weekend. Christy Lee was here. And so they were setting up all their equipment, right? I can't remember if it was her percussionist or if it was Missy that was like, oh, she needs to plug in her amp. And I said, oh, yeah, she needs an umbilical cord.
I forgot about this.
And I was like, as soon as it came out, I was like, nope. That's not what it is. That's definitely what is the word? Missy had to be like extension cord.
Extension
It's
cord?
hard. It's like that would be weird. And Christy was like, I'm calling it an umbilical cord from now on. It's like, okay.
Listen, for all the listeners out there, this might become a new part of the podcast every week, is like whatever the word was of the week that was hard, because words are hard at this phase of life. It started for me really in my mid 40s. Words started becoming complicated. And so much that
It's perimenopause, man.
it
It's that brain
is. It
fog.
is. I didn't know at the time. I blamed it on COVID at the time, because
Yeah.
I had COVID brain, which I did find out. Like, this is a good time to talk about this. I remember telling Krista, "You're going to have to put me in a home because there's something wrong with my brain." I would struggle to remember just simple things.
Anything. I was telling her things in the morning, and 2 hours later, I'm like, hey, remember we had that thing? And she's like, you
No,
didn't tell me about that. I'm
no,
like,
and
I
she would be
told you
like,
this morning.
We talked about it," and I was like, I had to eventually be like, I can't remember. I don't remember. Like, it's a problem. So I finally went and got my blood work done, because I was trying to rule out whether I needed to go get my brain scanned. That was a real thing. I was like, I think I'm gonna have to go get my brain scanned. Something's wrong. I clearly could tell there was something different about me and my brain, and decided to go see my gynecologist first, because I thought, well, I am in my 40s, at this time it was late 40s. I was 48, I think then. 48, that sounds about right. And I was like, I need to go get my blood work checked and rule out anything else being wrong, like maybe menopause, even though I wasn't in menopause at the time. Perimenopause, again, not really being something that people were talking about at the time. I just
And
knew
even that was just what, 6 years ago?
5 years ago. It was
Just 5 years ago, people, I mean, maybe it was just because it wasn't in our feed, in our face, in our, I don't know, but I do feel like people weren't talking
They weren't.
about
Even
it
celebrities are coming out now and talking about it, saying
now.
nobody was talking about it. Nobody was talking about it. And so I didn't know what was happening. But I decided to go see my gynecologist and have blood work done. And I was like, I barely can remember my name. I would joke and tell people, just call me Dory, because I have about a 60-second memory and I couldn't remember anything. So they did a bunch of blood work to see kind of where I was. And sure, she was like, we can definitely tell that you're in perimenopause. But thankfully, because I told her there was something really wrong with my memory, like I was really struggling. So talking about words are hard. Everything became a whatchamacallit, the thingy-majig, the what's a thing. I'd be like, I don't know what to call this thing, this bottle,
You know that thing. So now
soda.
Sherri, but now that I'm 46 and Sherri's 53, we pretty much go around all day and saying to each other, you know that thing that you do the thing with, and then the thing. What am I talking about? Now it's a trivia game at this point.
Sometimes I can figure it out. But anyway,
What is, it's like a Jeopardy. What is
right.
umbilical cord?
If you would have said that to me, which you did, I did not at first
No
know
one
what the hell you're
flinched.
talking about.
You didn't, but you didn't even, I think
I
you knew what I was
didn't, but
talking about.
I
Oh.
did. I just went and grabbed the extension cord. But anyway, I had my blood work done, and they could see through my levels that they were low in places. She's like, "Oh, sure, I can tell that you're in perimenopause." But thankfully, she had done a little bit more, a bit of a broader panel on me, because of all the other things that I told her I had going on. I told her that I had been sick with COVID at the time. This was back in 2021. So it's been 4 years ago. So I guess I was 49. Anyway, knew I was approaching menopause. I couldn't get away from that. They checked my iodine. And what they found was my iodine was very, very low. And I remember when she called me about it, I was like, wait, do you mean iron? Because I probably sound stupid when I say that, but I did not know that iodine was a thing that I needed. I just thought it was something you used to clean your cuts with. When they used to stick our hands down in iodine, like I remember when I got my stitches as a kid, they put my hand in a bowl full of iodine.
To clean
Yeah,
it,
to clean
right?
it.
Yeah.
So I had no idea. And so I was like, "Do you mean iron?" And she was like, "No, your iodine is very low. We're going to have to put you on a supplement." If you don't know, for anybody out there that's struggling with memory issues or feels suddenly like they have dementia, which I did see somebody in the comments say something about our last podcast episode where they're like, "Oh, words are hard and I just thought it was dementia." It's not. It can be. You should get checked, but I was trying to rule out that kind of stuff. And iodine is responsible for lots of different functions in the body, one being related to your thyroid, the other being related to your short term memory, which affects the hippocampus part of the brain. And so I got on iodine and it changed my memory. Now, it's not all there, some words are still hard. But it did bring back a significant amount of that regular, normal,
So
everyday recall.
this is really a PSA is what you're saying.
Yes, because I tell women all the time if they're like, "I'm struggling with memory," or whatever, because it's not something a doctor will normally order on a blood panel. And so because of
Oh,
the
your iodine level is
yeah,
not? Okay.
no, because of the symptoms that I was demonstrating, that's why she ordered the iodine panel. But it's not something that's usually checked unless they're checking for something to do with your thyroid. And so then I learned that that's why they iodize salt. Now, a lot of people probably know that. I did not. I did not know that that is why they put iodine in salt.
Well, and PSA, if you're going to buy salt at the store, not all salt is iodized. You have to actually look on the label to make sure it has
So your
iodine.
sea salt, Himalayan sea salt,
Do
all that,
not.
it's
Yeah.
not. There was a time when there was an epidemic really around low iodine. That's why they started iodizing salt. And now they're starting to see more symptoms of that come back because people have transitioned to so many of the
Himalayan
specialized sea
crab. Yeah.
salts and
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like that. They're not getting enough iodine. So if you're
But
having issues like
then
that,
if you
get
have too much
your
salt, your blood
right,
pressure goes up.
right. But you do need a certain amount of sodium. But anyway, get your iodine checked if you're ever questioning your short-term, especially short-term memory. Because I had no problems with my long-term memory. It was like basic recall, stuff I should know, like what's my address, shit like that. I was really struggling. I was like, wait, what is my address? Where do I live? I basically thought I was going to go out one day and never find my way home. That was what I thought maybe would happen. That was a real struggle. And now I am past that. I do take a regular iodine supplement. And Krista is now in the phase of words are hard and struggling to piece together her sentences. So I'm here for her. I'm here to help fill in the blanks.
No, we're not. We're going back and forth playing Jeopardy all day.
I mean,
What
I
is
feel like
a
my word recall is slightly better than yours at the current moment.
Oh.
I
Eh,
do. I do. I
okay.
think shots fired, but
We'll see about that. We'll start tallying.
we are. We're going to start keeping track, and we'll just have a word of the week when we have
Right.
this podcast when we
This
record.
wait,
There'll
wait,
be what word was hard this week.
let
This
me
week
do
it's
my
umbilical cord.
let me do my pass. Remember the game show password when they go, the password is umbilical cord. And everybody's like, something you plug into a plug. No, I'm just kidding.
They would not probably. They'd have been like, it's attached to a baby.
Yeah.
It's
Obviously.
a baby.
Obviously.
It's a
Is it a
placenta.
baby?
Like
So
I don't know.
speaking of brain fog, and not that I want to get serious, although I feel like this podcast is going to go back and forth from education to PSAs to funny, and then maybe a little deep once in a blue moon. But
It
we
could
don't.
go
It doesn't have to.
so. It's going to
doesn't-
go so many ways.
This doesn't have to be deep, but you did recently come out with a post on the socials about your therapy journey and how you have started EMDR, right? Which I always want to say EDM,
It's
like
yeah.
the
No, you said it right. It's EMDR.
like the
Don't.
dance music. No, okay.
I wish it was just dancing. That'd be great. That kind of therapy, dance therapy would be great.
So our household, we are very pro mental health for one, and pro therapy, and we are all in like a little different therapy for different reasons, including the kids. But my brother's a therapist, and I come from a long line of, no, I don't actually, just my brother. But there were a lot of people that did not know what EMDR was. Now, I have no offense, but for 20 years, I've told Sherri, you need to go to therapy. And she's like, I am not doing therapy. I'm not doing that. I'm not going like
I
Sherry's.
didn't. Now
Sherri's
don't
not okay. Now, if you don't know Sherri, and I'm sure you guys can probably see this as a Gen Xer, as a woman that is Sherri, she is not really open to sitting on a couch, laying down, and like discussing her feelings per se. We're Gen X, bro. There's no feelings. We don't have feelings. You just buck up and move on, right?
basically, that's how it works, yeah.
But there were some things that led into I said, "Listen, I know someone that did this one therapy that I think would be really helpful for you, and it's not talk therapy. So why don't you explain?"
This question, actually, we had somebody that in our audience that watched our first episode of the podcast that I'm assuming follows me, asked for me to talk more about EMDR and therapy. They're curious. I think a lot of people are. I'd never heard of EMDR
I hadn't either.
before Krista, recommended based on a friend's recommendation. So to back up though, her telling me for 20 years, you really should seek therapy. She's kind of painting me with a very broad brush here. Uh,
Okay. It's not a negative thing.
and also my aversion, if you will, to therapy. So I'd like to set that up first.
Well, here's the thing. When growing up, when we were young, people didn't go to therapy. And if you were in seeing a therapist or seeing a psychiatrist, you were real fucked up. Like, what's wrong with that kid or what's wrong with that person? Like, it wasn't really a thing, right? It had its stigma to it. Let's put it that way.
I grew up in a time, and even being older than you, I mean, I don't know how much of this you actually remember, but people that needed mental health intervention of any kind, or people that were seen as having mental health issues, I mean, they used to put them in homes and
The label,
stuff.
yeah, the label, like, and they were doing all kinds of brain shock
Therapy,
therapy,
heavy, heavy drugs. I was like,
psychosis,
so
antipsychosis.
just the idea of like, it wasn't that I wasn't admitting that I could use therapy. It was that I needed therapy. It was not about that. It was just the idea of,
Because it puts you in a vulnerable position, and you don't like being in a vulnerable position.
yes, the answer is yes. So people probably want to know, like, well, okay, if you never went to therapy, what led you to therapy? Like, what made you finally do it? Because I did have a barrier, if you will, to therapy, and it was rooted in a lot of things. It wasn't just rooted in the stigmatism attached to it. It was rooted in the vulnerability. It was rooted in the idea of like sitting there and having conversations with with a stranger about my inner darkest
Well, and
secrets or whatever.
plus, I think you were probably somewhat nervous of what may pop up.
I mean, there's just a lot of shit I don't wanna talk about.
Right.
And so,
Right, yeah.
the idea of sitting there and talking, through that with somebody was just like, I was not gonna do that. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with being that vulnerable. I'm not comfortable with sharing those parts of myself with somebody or, like, reliving, if you will,
Right, yeah.
those things. And so I just was always like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do it." Anyway, it was finally getting to a point where it was like, "Okay, I have to. I needed to for me," because for 50 years of my life, I had really struggled mentally with my mental health and depression and as Krista would call out, like the cyclical sort of cycle that I would go through where I had very high highs and very low lows. And when I turned 50, 50 was like a big number for me. It was like a huge scary number for me, but it was, I don't know what happened. It's just like somebody flipped a switch or a door opened for me that hadn't been there before and I was able to start working on me. And so I'd already been doing some work or what I thought thought I was doing a lot of work. That's when I got on social media and I've been unpacking some stuff for myself and working through things. That's when I started making content about growing up Gen X. And, I started talking about some of the more taboo subjects. And I thought I had done a lot of that work, only to be surprised a little over a year ago that I was just performing it even better. I was just clearly performing better than I ever had. It's interesting when I look back at like my life and look at how much of it was performative. And, I talk a
Just
lot of,
like just going through the motions.
yeah,
Yeah.
I talk about it, about like the masks that we wear, and how we show up in the world. And so I think about, all the masks and the armor and all the shit that I carried around, to protect me from the
Getting
outside
hurt.
world. getting hurt or whatever. And so I was working on that and really felt like I was making a significant amount of progress. Mentally, I felt better. I felt lighter. I didn't feel as heavy. I felt like I had more control over my thoughts and less flashbacks and things like that. And only to find out that I just was performing it even
It
better.
was it was busted wide open.
Yeah, it was like, "Oh, you're not doing as well as you thought," and, I was being triggered all over the place, and it was kind of I think I'd spent so much of my life performing and so much of my life, wearing those masks and just hiding all of that, all those parts of myself that when and then, of course, thinking that I was doing better than I was, and then to find out that I wasn't, and recognizing the trigger and the way it was triggering me were things I had never noticed before, which wasn't just the emotional trigger, it was like the physical trigger as well. And I was like kind of taken back by that because I was like, wow, I really thought I was past this. And so Krista again recommended through a friend who had done EMDR because she knew I just wasn't going to sit and talk to somebody. That was not going to happen. But I needed to figure out a way to work through this stuff. And so
So what is EMDR?
EMDR stands for, I had to write it down because I always forget exactly what it is. It is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And so I didn't know what to expect. Okay. I did not know what to expect with EMDR. I was nervous and I would never go to like somebody's office. Like I do this right here in front of in my computer in my home. I'm not going to go sit on somebody's
In her
couch.
chair,
I'm not going to go sit, not definitely never going to lay down on somebody's couch. That's not going to happen. And sit and look face to face, with somebody that's in the same room with me. I'm just not comfortable with that. The weird thing is that the first time I did EMDR and get on the computer and there's a person on the other side, look, just staring at me, just the two of us in these little squares was even probably a little more uncomfortable than I would have anticipated it to be because you're still inviting them into your space, right? And I was actually inviting her into my space, like in this space where when you're in a therapist's office, you're just in their space. And so it was a little bit more vulnerable than I expected it to be. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what it was. I was just like, I was so willing to try because I was like, okay, this is not talk therapy. That sounds great. But what it does is it helps to process traumatic memories. So usually EMDR is used for people with PTSD, CPTSD, um, people that have had, significant trauma moments in their life. Maybe they lost somebody close to them, things like that. So it helps to process traumatic memories by stimulating your brain through bilateral movement. So you can do it by watching these dots on a screen, or some people do tapping, which I've never done that. So I don't know how that works. But what it does is it helps you to reprocess, helps your brain. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just giving you kind of my understanding of it. It helps your brain to tap into the healing part of the brain so that it helps you to organize those memories.
So it like recategorizes,
It
right? Like
does, and then
as
helps to lessen the intensity of them. So in some cases, for some people, which it hasn't been the case for me, but for some people, it's not like it erases the memory because it doesn't, but it makes them less. Maybe they could become a little fuzzier or they don't hold the emotional charge. And that's really what I was focused on, was reducing the emotional charge that I was having, which for people that maybe don't know what I'm talking about, there's a book out called The Body Keeps the Score. My past life, I was an investigator for 26 years. I spent a lot of time reading body language and know a lot about how the body reacts. There's certain things that happen in the body that you can't necessarily control. And so this is kind of tapping into that space of, like, for example, if you happen to be speeding and you fly past a police officer, you get that sudden rush,
flutter, yeah,
right?
in your
Your heart
stomach where you're like,
starts
"Oh,
racing,
shit."
your armpits
Yeah.
maybe start tingling, they get a little sweaty, maybe your breath is a little bit shorter than normal. You're nervous.
Your
You have
heart
yeah,
rate
heart
goes
rate
up.
goes
Yeah.
up. That's the kind of like body triggers I'm talking about.
Body response.
That's the emotional charge, if you will. Something that when you think about a memory, how it makes you feel, like where you feel that in your body. So that's sort of what EMDR focuses on, is like the intensity around a memory. So you can pick a target memory, which is what I was doing. I did in the beginning, was picked a very specific. I mean, you kind of have the initial couple sessions are establishing the basic stuff a
Just like
therapist
any, yeah.
needs. But then it was like, I think for some people, maybe they don't know what the target memory is. For a lot of people, they're like, there's a lot of memories I don't have. Like I just there's like I'm learning now that's like trauma amnesia, where it's just like
Yeah.
entire parts of your life that don't exist, either for whatever reason. So some people don't know. They have a trigger, they have a feeling, and they don't know where to like
Well,
what
you
memory.
hear about a lot of people that they're like, "Oh my god, I turned, 45 and then all of a sudden I had this memory of X, Y, or Z that I didn't even know existed."
Yeah,
And then it
it could
flips
be
their whole
something.
world
Well, it
upside
could
down.
be it could be I mean, think about age-wise, right? It could be like hormonal fluctuations or changes in the body and things like that, or something happens that just suddenly triggers or
Or
somebody
maybe
unlocks a memory
yeah,
for some
their
reason.
kid is the same age at that time that something happened to them and they
Yeah.
didn't really
But there's some
remember.
people that are just like they don't have a memory specifically, but they have this like
Response.
they have a response. They believe there's something there, but they don't necessarily know what it is, right? For me, I had even though there's huge just entire
Gaps.
years that are gone, there were very specific memories that I was able to target. And so you essentially establish which memory do you want to work on, and then what where you feel that in your body, where's the emotional charge, how much charge does it hold, like on a scale of 1 to 10. So on like scale of 1 to 10, you might gauge that for some people that might be a 10. For other people it might be a 7 or an 8. For me, I told my therapist, I'm never going to call anything a 10. That's probably a very Gen X thing. I don't know why. And I told her that. I was like, there's nothing like on a pain scale, for example, when doctors ever ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain threshold? I'm like, I don't know. I'm never going
I
to
don't
tell you it's
I've
not a
never said a
10.
10. I've
You
never said
know,
a 10.
I just usually I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't, a 3, a 4. It could be a lot of pain. I don't know how to gauge it,
I
right?
feel
Like,
like that is a very subjective
it
scale
is.
usage, which is like,
It is, because if you'd be nice if you gave me like what is a 3 supposed to feel like? I don't
right.
know, but when she would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I was like, I'm never gonna give it a 10. I'm just I because 10 to me would be like the worst of the worst. 9 even feels like the worst of the worst, and I'm unpacking this in therapy. What you're trying to do is not just lessen the intensity of a memory, you're also trying to kind of rewrite it, if you will. You're not rewriting your story, you're trying to change the perception of that memory or the belief, that's the word I should use, the belief associated with that memory.
Right. So it basically reworks your brain to
It
make it
does, it
not such a
reorganizes.
harmful and like terrible like feeling when you think of that
Well,
memory or
because
when
sometimes the feelings are tied to beliefs, and that's the thing is
mm,
like is trying to flesh out like what that memory wired in me or what belief came from that. Anyway, on the scale of 1 to 10, thinking about what that looked like for me, my one of my beliefs was, and I'm still working through it, is that like I would never call anything a 9 or a 10 because I could look at my trauma and think
it still couldn't be as bad as somebody
there's
else's.
so much it could be
Sure.
there's so many
Yeah.
way worse things that
Scenarios.
somebody could go through, right? So for me, that minimization, that minimizing my own trauma and my own pain, and this belief that it's not that bad. It's not bad. I probably told myself for my whole lifetime it's not that bad. That's why I didn't need therapy.
It could have been worse.
It could be worse, and I'm always going to say that. I still say that it could be worse because it could. But
Sure. You could say that with everything though.
what I'm learning though is that trauma, a lot like pain, where we talk about that pain scale, is again, it's subjective to some degree, what the threshold is
Fully.
of pain. However, trauma is trauma and pain is pain.
Mhm.
And so for me to say that that's like me telling you that you're happy is less than mine, that I'm happier than you are. Happiness is happiness. Like, and it's different for each
Right.
person.
Right.
It's like saying that your happiness is less than mine, or that my happiness is less than yours. It's kind of the same thing. Pain is pain and
I
trauma
feel
is
like that
trauma.
was kinda drilled into us, though,
It
as
was,
kids.
that's what
It
I'm
was
saying, like,
a
we were
"Suck it up,
always
buttercup. You could
yes.
always have it could always be worse.
Yes, suck it up,
Pull your fucking
brush
pants
yourself
up." Yeah.
off,
Dust your shoulder out. Yeah.
stop
Keep
crying or I'll
moving.
give you something to cry about, like that whole
There are hungry people in Hungary. That's what I got when I was a
oh, we
kid.
were I mean, that's we had to eat everything on our plate. That's a whole
Right.
we could have a
Yeah.
whole podcast just about that, and, the relationship to food. But back
Mm.
to the trauma and the pain, yeah, we were told that our pain was not our pain was not important. Our pain
Well,
was
we weren't
less
important
well, right, but our pain was less because of whatever,
because it's not that bad.
yeah, whatever they however they gauged, they triaged
Sure.
whatever you were going through. I mean, we had kids walking around with broken bones because their
Yeah.
parents were like, "You're
Because they're
fine.
like, "You're
You're
fine."
fine." So our pain was minimized, and we were taught to suck it up, and we were taught that life could be a lot worse than what it is.
Sure.
Even if life was not great, you were told and believed wholeheartedly that life could be worse, and they would give you things to compare your life to, which was you said there's hungry kids in Hungary. Ours was there's starving kids in Africa when I was a kid. There were comparisons being made where we were to look at other lives and believe that ours was better, even if it was trauma. And so EMDR is helping me to work through those emotionally charged memories, and they're not about having a scraped knee and being told to suck it up, that kind of
Right.
thing. These are like deeply rooted
Trauma.
trauma, things that happened to
More
me
to come in the book.
and working through those one by one. So the goal is to just reduce the charge. So I'm convinced that those things are always going to be with me. It's not erasing memories for me. It's making them more palatable, I guess.
Well, and, I can honestly say that I personally have seen a huge change in you since starting EMDR. So, for those that are closed off to talk therapy or whatever, this is a really, really good alternative, especially if you have trauma that can help people, honestly.
I mean, when I've looked it up, because I did look it up in the beginning, and I still look up certain things about it as I'm going through, a session or whatever, and I try to write
It's
things
different for
down.
everybody, just like
Yeah,
talk therapy.
but I've read about it, and there's for people, like I said, with PTSD, complex PTSD, major traumatic events, where maybe talk therapy, traditional therapy is not as beneficial.
Right.
Yeah, or not I'm not in any way saying talk therapy is not beneficial, but there are studies out there that show in some cases with serious traumatic events or deeply rooted traumas, PTSD type stuff, that traditional talk therapy doesn't always work. You're asking the person to relive those memories out
Right. Right.
loud and
Right.
talk about them, and that can be traumatizing by
All
itself.
over again. Right.
Yeah, it's taken me, because you talked about the post that I made, it's taken me 10 months or so to finally tell people that I am in therapy, because at first I felt really weird about it. I felt, awkward about admitting that I was in therapy, not because I have anything I think it's great for other people that have gotten therapy or
I feel
are
like
in
it's
therapy.
great for other people, just not me.
It wasn't even that, it's not like a judgmental thing.
No, I know. I know.
It never was. I kinda envied for many, many years, I envied people that were getting therapy because I just couldn't bring myself to do it, like, sit down and talk to somebody. I didn't know EMDR was a thing. And so, like I said,
Well,
when I turned
frankly, and we as a nation are in a mental health absolute crisis right
yeah.
now.
I mean, I can tell you that EMDR for me personally, besides the fact that some of those memories are easier for me to sit with now. The bigger things that I've noticed is I'm calmer than I used to be. I don't react as quickly as I used to certain things. I'm able to recognize now when I do react. That's been a big thing for me is never knowing that I could connect the dots between, like, how I reacted to something or how I react, like, not never really knowing, like, why do I react like that? Why does this certain thing just set me off or whatever? Now I'm able to see it happening real time and sort of sit with that and go, "Okay, well, what about that made me feel this certain kind of way. Like I felt like this
your the
physical
physical
reaction
reaction, yeah.
that I would have recognized in the past, but I just always chalked that up to being stressed, too
High
wound too
strung.
tight, high
Yeah, yeah,
strung, all
yeah.
the things people told me. She's high strung, she's this, she's that. Those things that I believed about myself, I just accepted like this is just me. And that's what I spent most of my life telling people, even you. Like this is just who I am. This is how I'm wired. And if you don't like that,
So
then
tough shit,
tough
biatch.
shit. That was kind of how I but now I'm
Yes, I know.
seeing that it's not just who I am. It's
No,
yes, it is who I am,
you
but
have 100% been so much more calm, even like when I'm amped up about like something, you come at it more calm, where before we would probably both be amped up, and then that's never a good thing. But you are just, even in general, you're just more lighter, I
and
guess.
it feels good. It feels good
Yeah,
to
of
feel
course.
lighter.
No one likes feeling
No, it was
wound
an
tight.
awful feeling every single day to feel that way. That for 50 years of my life, I would wake up every day and for just a few moments, I would have peace, like just calm.
And
And
then
then everything would just
the
come
brain.
pouring in.
Yeah.
And that when I would just went through life that way, just amped up, very I mean, I still have a very like kind of RBF, don't fuck with me exterior. I still put that off
Shell.
to the world. But it's recognizing even beyond that of like I said, it's starting to recognize like how certain things trigger me and that physical feeling where I'm like, "Oh, I why did that happen?" And I'm able to sit with that and I'm able to digest it. I'm able to sort of explore that and see like, well, what may what why do I react that way? Or why did this one thing that somebody said or did make me react the way that I did? And it's helping me to trace the wiring, if I that's what I call it, kind of tracing those wires. The analogy I gave my therapist was like the wiring in a house. You have a breaker that keeps tripping and you can't figure out why that breaker keeps tripping. And if you were to start tracing the wire back to the source, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out what keeps tripping the breaker. And it's rewiring that. It's fixing that break or that short in the wire. And that's essentially kind of how I have settled on like what that in my brain what that looks like. And it's tracing those wires one by one, and trying to figure out why it trips. I'm way more comfortable with it now than I was in the beginning. I still most of the time feel like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I tell her that. I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't feel things a lot of times. And what I've been told, because you'll do the back and forth, the dots go back and forth across the screen. You get on a memory or whatever it is that you're working on, and you follow the dots. And then after the dots stop, they'll ask you what you're feeling. And a lot of times I don't feel anything, and I'll tell her I'm like nothing. I'm learning that nothing has been my default setting for most of my life, and what she has told me is that nothing is a feeling too. And so I'm learning to sit with that. I'm learning to understand that feeling nothing is a feeling too.
Mhm.
And so it's helping me to, identify things like why I'm so like hypervigilance, the numbing out, which I've done most of my life, disassociation, things like that I never really had words for. I didn't understand. It's helped me to learn more about myself
Mhm.
and how I show up in the world. And it's been a wild experience. It's wild. It's not easy for anybody that's curious, but here's what I'd say from somebody that's in the thick of it. She tells me I'm in the messy middle of therapy right now, but she reassures me all the time I'm not doing it wrong, first of all. So personal defectiveness was something she identified, which I had to look up. I didn't even know what that meant, which is the whole thing. Everybody
Has a different
processes
journey. Sure.
differently,
Yep,
has their
yep.
own journey, okay? And for some people, it's harder than it is for others. Depends on
Mhm.
how complex the trauma is, depends on what kind of memories you're working with, depends on how much I think you're working with. So if it's like one incident, for example, I think if I only was working on one thing, it might be different for me, but I'm working on a complexity of multiple years, and so it's different. But if you are
Sure, like, so, for example, if somebody, like, got into a terrible car accident
right,
and they are, like,
afraid to get in a
crippled
car.
to
Yeah.
drive, right, this
Yeah,
would, like,
it
that
can help with
one event.
that. It
Sure,
can
sure,
help with stuff like that.
sure, but
Yeah,
we're talking
or
about
somebody died in a tragic
sure,
way
sure,
that,
sure.
that you're afraid of. Yes, it can help you to get past that. But for people with like I said, PTSD, complex PTSD, or what is more referred to people with complex childhood trauma. It is especially if you're like me and you just can't get to a point where you're like, I know I need help, but I just don't, I'm not comfortable sitting and talking to somebody. This is an option. And
Exactly.
there's been other, since I made that therapy video, and I have to go back and look at what some of the comments were. There are some other options outside of EMDR that people started with EMDR and now they're doing this other
Oh,
kind of
awesome.
therapy. And I was like,
Okay.
okay, this is something for me to consider
Right.
because multiple veins of therapy have different benefits.
Sure.
And so I've considered, I'm like, oh, well, maybe once I get past some of the bigger hurdles, maybe there are other options for me. So that was promising. And now I'm even more open to the therapy process in general. But Krista, you can speak to talk therapy because you do it. Right. And so I've never done it, so I can't speak to it. So, from your perspective, listening to my experience, which is probably the most we've talked about what EMDR is for
Mhm.
me, because I don't really talk about it. I just do my therapy thing and then I don't talk about it because I don't want to talk about it. But what is it like for you?
I mean, I've been in therapy. My therapy journey started from our 14-year-old who has severe anxiety and has panic attacks and is deathly afraid of getting sick. And if she is sick, it's the whole house is turned upside down because everybody is hypervigilant to her feelings, right? And I was just not dealing with that well. So I was like, I need to go talk this out with a third party. And obviously, it's turned into completely other things. She was the one that led me down getting tested for ADHD. Go figure. Because I'm sure we sat down and she was like this when I walked out. Because my brain is constantly the fact me sitting here and doing this for as long like Sherry knows, I don't sit at a computer. Like I am constantly moving, which is what my brain is doing at all times. So it just ping pongs all the time. But anyway, we have gone in a lot of different directions, but she encouraged me to go get tested for ADHD. She come a long way. And when just dealing with other life things in general, like I have also kind of a different process, or I can say, I need to put this boundary up with this person because I'm such a people pleaser that I was afraid of boundaries. Perimenopause helped with that a little bit because now I just don't give a fuck. Like,
That does
get the
happen.
fuck out of my face
That
more
that
than, you know
does
what I mean?
happen.
Like,
Yeah.
with your shit, like I hate confrontation. Just there's a lot that she's helped me through. But yeah, talk therapy for me, it's a much, much different process. And unfortunately, the vetting process for somebody for talk therapy, I feel like is sometimes really hard. You have to find someone you jive with,
I think that was one of my bigger fears too. Was had friends that had trauma in their
bad,
past that had bad experiences.
right, with a therapist, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the other thing. I was like, I don't need anybody to make it worse. I'm good by myself being bad. Like I can do that on my own. I don't need anybody to help me. So yeah, I think that that's a really important thing too, is to finding the right therapist.
Well, and I walked into mine and she's a Gen Xer, very like aligns with like the Gen X way of doing things and how we were raised very similarly. I mean, honestly, if she wasn't my therapist, we'd probably be friends kind of a thing. We both do Peloton workouts. We, are past like runners, like whatever. So that's helpful. Although sometimes we definitely go down a rabbit hole of what were we talking about again? Anyway,
That happens a lot with you.
right. It
I'm
does.
gonna
Like,
say it's probably you,
okay. Well,
but
that's probably why she was like, you should probably go get tested.
right, right. But I wanna point out because we could do an episode on this. You were talking about how perimenopause has led you into your "I don't give a fuck" phase of life, and I remember when I arrived there, and I just recently learned, and I think this is interesting. It's fascinating. I should do a little more research on it because that's how my brain works. My brain has to know all the things. I have to know the who, what, when, where, why, how, all that shit. That's one of my biggest obstacles in therapy is I have to understand the why. It's a big hang up of mine. But anyway, you mentioned about the I don't give a fuck part of life. And I've recently learned that when our hormones start to decline, estrogen being one of the big ones, and I think it's the one responsible. That's why I said I need to research. So don't anybody come for
Don't
me
fact
if
check her
I
shit.
don't fact check me, but I don't remember. I think it's estrogen. It might be progesterone. I don't remember which one. It's not really that important.
Relevant. Okay.
But that as our bodies start making less of that and it declines, that particular hormone is responsible for your body creating oxytocin, I believe, which is your feel good, your empathetic uh, chemical in the body. And because we produce less of it, we just stop giving a fuck. Okay. That's why there's a whole movement of women in the world that are basically like, I don't give a fuck.
The
That are
we do not care club.
we do not care club. Shout out to Melanie. The We Do Not Care Club, which it's funny. I feel like I should be an honorary member. I mean, I know I can be a member, but
I
I
feel
should
like
be
you should
like
be on the board.
I should be on the
like a
board or like a
cabinet.
one of the founding like members
Founding
because
fathers.
I was in the Do Not Care Club. I didn't call it that before I even knew who Melanie was. I did not give a fuck. I could go back to my beginning phase of my content creation and it was all about that. How I just do not give a fuck. So I feel like I should get like I don't know, like an honorary
a
board.
tag.
Something.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Melanie and the We Do Not Care Club because we all do not care. And that's part of it. There's science. There's real science behind women in this phase of life.
Well, then maybe I had an overproduction of whatever that was because the fact, and I do know that this is an ADHD thing as well, where I can replay a conversation that occurred between me and somebody else from like the 8th grade where I'm like, God, that was so mortifying. Why did I say that?
I can't remember any conversations.
No, but even, I mean, I could ramble off several different conversations or like things I said where I was like, God, you're an idiot. Like, why would you say that? Like, yeah, I mean, and I do know that I could have a conversation in the grocery store tomorrow with somebody that I know or whatever. And then I go home and I'm like, did they think that I was like bragging or did they think I would like whatever? So that piece has gone down because I used to do it. I used to replay conversations in my head constantly of like, I should have said something different. I should have done something different. I should have given them a hug when they were, you know what I mean? Like it was a really debilitating thing for me for a long time.
I've spent 20 years with you. I'm very familiar with that version of Christa. I know that version of you. Many times I have been sucked into those conversations in your brain. Or you're sucking me in to get my opinion of all the shit that's playing in your brain. And
then I have to call 5 of my closest friends, my 2 sisters,
and
my
we
brother.
all have to live it with you.
Do you think I should have done this? Or do you get this?
You know why I feel like you work through a list of people is because you don't get the answers. We don't tell you what you want to hear.
No, it's not about that. It's not about telling me what I want to hear. I do want to hear different point of views so that I can then circle around an entire collaborative research and to say like, well, this
collaborative research about my brain.
This is the median of people said that what I said was okay, or whatever, like just
that's your overthinking. I've also discovered through EMDR how much of an overthinker I am, which I always have had so much internal monologue that I've basically just ignored most of my life. Like I haven't ignored it. It's there, but I've kept it to myself. Like I've kept it very internalized. And now, it's just wild when I am able to sit with it and actually, like I said, now that I'm able to see it in real time, not all the time, but sometimes I'm seeing these things now in real time and I'm able to sit with that. And I'm like, God, you know what I mean? I mean, I always known there was an internal committee up here. Okay. And there's so many on the board and not all of them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
should be there.
Tiffany Jenkins was one of the very first people I saw where she did her skits where like she played the different people that were in her head.
Yeah.
Around a round table.
I would
remember?
have never in a million years imagined sharing those.
Sure. I get it. I'm just saying.
But I've been able to start naming them. They never had names. Like I just knew they were there and they were for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about those overcritical voices a lot of times that you hear in your head, or some people associate it with like the angel and the devil on your shoulder or whatever, like those voices. I've been able to start naming them. And so I never really.
So if I hear you say, shut the fuck up, Patty, like
well,
I'll
not
know
like
that.
I just, they're not named like names. They're like, there's the overthinker and there's the people pleaser and there's the perfectionist. And there's these things that I'm able to now see where I'm like, oh, what is probably one of the most beneficial things to me. And this might just be my wiring. I'm like you're sitting there talking about how you replay the conversations in your head or whatever. I don't do that, but there's other ways that I show up in that way. Is the over analytical part of me that needs to analyze it. So now because I'm so analytical, I'm able to sit with that and go, oh, there's my perfectionist, and it's starting for me. I'm able to start going down the rabbit hole with that of like why why is that? Because what I'm learning through EMDR is fleshing out the belief system that was built out of my trauma. And so it's tracing that back. So it's like, why do I feel the need to be perfect? Why? Because anybody that's a perfectionist, they already know this. It's extremely debilitating. It is so difficult to be a perfectionist and find a place where you're like, okay, it's good enough. It's never going to be good enough, but where you're okay finally saying, okay, I can walk away from this. That's very debilitating at times to be able to get to that point. And the same with being an over analytical person. Also very debilitating at times because you get caught in the analysis paralysis thing and it keeps you from moving forward. So there's all these things that I'm able to start to pause and spend time with, which I never would have done in the past. And I recently told you, I'm still struggling with this part. I've recently admitted to Krista, which 20 years we've been together, and there's so much about me you don't know. But uh, is that I recently said to you, I feel like I have just lived on the surface my entire life, not really feeling like I had a lot of depth. And although I have a lot of depth, I never was really in tune with that because I was hidden or buried under all the masks and performative side of me that I'm starting to get in touch with that. And so,
That's all your also your neurospiciness. I
well,
mean,
is
which we
it?
both
Because I
have.
don't
The
know. I
masks.
also am not
Yes,
diagnosed.
the
So,
masks. Well, neurodivergent is just, I mean, yes, it's the masks you wear for other people. So, the fact that, like, well, I don't think you do it as much. I know I do. Like, where I'm in a certain situation and I am able to, I'm caring less and less, but I try to adapt to, like, oh, this person is really outgoing. I'm going to be really outgoing as well. Or, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, no, I
trying
just
to fit into
I'm
your
always pretty much
environment. Right. Yeah, you
just
are. You're not like that.
um, this is what you get. I mean, I've tried. I think that I have gotten softer in my old age. Don't you think?
Yes, very,
I've softened a
very
lot
much.
from but I also have been at this year, November 5th will be 10 years. That's gonna be our next episode. 10 years since I quit my corporate job. And so it's been 10 years of sort of, I think, undoing some of the performative part of
Hmm.
being in that world that I lived in and working in a male dominated field and just trying to
Doing the clock in, clock out
yeah,
thing. Yeah, yeah.
and trying to succeed in that space, in that world, and the lot of performance and just fake it till you make it, right? And so I feel like now 10 years in, there's some of that's just been undone over time. So I think some of that has softened me, but I recognize there's parts of me that I am starting to understand maybe I will never fully soften. They'll just always be there, but I do feel like I've softened. I don't know if it's old age or, like I said, the 10 years out
No,
of the
because I feel like no, I feel like old age, I mean, I guess it could probably go either way. People get usually more bitter or more hard, you know what I
yeah,
mean,
I
in
think
their
those
old
are the
age.
ones I think they're the ones that don't do the work.
Well, that's
I think that
another topic for
I
another
look
day.
around at, the people in their 70s and 80s that I happen to know, and I think a lot of them haven't done the work. And they too came from a time when mental health was highly stigmatized. I'm hoping to be one that gets to that age and can just fully embrace life, right? Like just fully embrace life for all that's where I'm trying to be now. Is just fully embrace life for like what it is and not holding on to shit that I don't need anymore. And that's not easy. It's not easy to all that baggage that we carry around, all the things that we carry with us. It's not easy.
Well, that's one of the things we wanted this podcast to be about was undoing the
The
undoing.
unbecoming.
It was supposed to be called Unbecoming
Yeah.
because, and speaking of unbecoming, I think we should close out with this amazing comment that you
Oh.
got on this video. There was a comment left under one of the teasers that we did for the podcast.
The pilot.
the pilot, correct? And this is what it says. And I'm going to speak it in quotes so you can get a full understanding.
We're okay.
Okay. And this is was commented by somebody named Elford. Okay. You can't be a true Gen X, for you wouldn't have a wife, 'cause you was raised better. And know that that is wrong. And the way we was raised was against that. And the Bible even tells you it is wrong. So you preach Gen X. I don't know how, when you can say you are a Gen X, when you go against, first of all, can we help being Gen X? We were born when we were born, right? You go against everything that we was raised, in our time. I need for you to explain that to me, because I am a true Gen X. I was born in 1964. Which makes you a boomer.
Yeah, let's start there. There's so much to unpack there.
And I know that is wrong. I know we have to live with it around us, but in my heart and in my mind, I know it is wrong, because the Bible tells me that in the way we was raised, we was told that.
So there's so much to unpack here that we won't be unpacking. First of all, we will, I can't make any promises, but we will do our best to never go down the religious or a political road here on this podcast. We're going to keep things clean in that regard. So we'll just skip over that. But let's start with the 1964. I'm a true, he said he's a true Gen Xer.
He's a true Gen Xer.
Gen X.
And then once I realized he was born in 1964, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a boomer comment.
Okay, so
no offense.
So yes, let's start with that. You're not Gen X.
I know I know a lot of you are just listening to this podcast, but if I could show you guys the picture, it's always got to be this kind of dude. Just throwing that out there. But anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so the opening part is basically, I don't know how you could be Gen X when you have a wife.
When you hear has a wife.
I don't know what my generation has to do with who I choose to spend my life with. There's that. Yes, were we raised in a time where having a wife, or I couldn't even have a wife at that time, but having a partner of the same sex, I guess, was frowned upon in a lot of ways, and people had to hide that part of their life. So yes, that is valid. But I don't know that saying all of Gen X was raised to believe that is true. I think that's broad brushing.
Yeah, that's a big old broad brush.
Yeah. And then on top of that, to say that I preach Gen X, I don't preach shit. Okay. I talk about my generation. I share stories about my generation, how we have shared experiences. I don't preach shit. Okay. I take that back. I do there's one thing I preach at, which is to stop giving a fuck about stupid shit and stop taking life so seriously, because none of us are getting out of here alive. Okay. None of us. Lighten up, laugh a little, and try not to take yourself too seriously. But this guy clearly is taking life very seriously.
Alfred, it just doesn't affect him. So,
but for anybody that,
why anybody cares.
Anybody that listen, I was raised in an extremely religious environment with my grandparents. And so I get where this guy's coming from, whatever belief system he has. I'm not going to sit here and I can't pretend to be able to undo somebody's belief system. I don't even care to try. But I was raised in a very religious environment that was taught that, and I have managed to unlearn a lot of that. And I encourage other people to spend time exploring who they are and unlearning things that were given to you that maybe don't necessarily align with you. This one did not align with me. And so here I am sitting with wife 20 years. And that does not make me less of a believer in a greater power. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. How are we closing this bitch out?
Just that.
No, we can't end it just like that. You didn't have anything funny for me or nothing this time?
Okay, 2 minutes. I need you guys to think about this. I was thinking about this on the drive today, and I had to text somebody something, and I was like, man, when is that AI going to come out with us being able to just read our minds and text it to people? And then I was like, that's actually a really, really bad idea, that if they could read our minds and it would text it to somebody.
They would take over the world for sure.
But imagine the fights Well, that's not really what, I can't help what my brain is thinking. Like, just imagine the fights it would
that's like
ensue.
getting into trouble for a dream you had. You know?
Exactly.
Well, not that you had, but that like your spouse had, that they're
Yeah.
holding you accountable for something
They
that
wake
you
you
did
up
in
and
a
you're like,
dream that you're like, wait a
"You
fucking minute.
cheated on me."
It wasn't me. I wasn't, it's a dream, but they're still mad at you. Same
I
concept.
can't help the neurosynapses in my head and what they say to you. It's
Oh my
not my
God. There are
fault.
so many things that are set up
Oh
here
my
that
God.
nobody should hear.
Oh my
Okay.
God. Oh my
So many
God.
things. AI especially, because then they could literally just, everybody's so afraid of AI taking over the world anyway. Like that would be all they need. That would be all
That's
it
it.
needs to take over. And then
That's
we
it.
would be in an iRobot situation.
Mine would be crazy,
They
but
would
then also boring. But then also like, this bitch is fucking crazy.
not only
That's what
that,
they would say.
if AI could read your thoughts and there was ever a cure, how do I want to say it? Curating, that's not the word I'm looking for. A call, if you will, of people that need to, essentially be removed, AI speaking, like iRobot type situation or whatever. Most of us would probably be axed right away. You know what I mean? The shit that goes on up here, they'd be like, she's got to go. I would be instantly labeled and she's got to go. So that can never happen. And I'm going to resist until I can't resist anymore. So with that,
So if any of you, what would your text messages look like in the comments?
in your brain.
We'll read these. We'll read some of these on the next.
What would your AI text if it was reading your brain say?
What would you be most scared of?
Most afraid of the world fight? They're not going to tell us that, you psycho.
You never know.
Anyway, this is episode 1. And so if you are not liking, subscribing, or following this podcast, do so. You can find us where all your favorite podcasts are streamed, as well as YouTube.
If you want to see the face that goes with the voices, check us out on YouTube.
Check it out on YouTube.
They already know your mug.
The Real Slim Sherri. The links will be down in the description of the podcast. And until next time.
Until next time, friends.
Peace
the Real
out.
Slim Sherri shit show.
Bye.
Bye.
Christa's here to save the day with Slim Sherri. What do you say? Real Slim Sherri Show.